This is where I'll begin to take you on a journey and introduce you to the Zeitgeist movement. However, to truly understand this journey, a preparation of mind must occur. And unfortunately, to do this, we have to begin on a sad note. We have to begin to realize fully and truly how bad a shape we're in as a people on this planet. Guys, it's bad. It's so bad that we shut ourselves off to it. But realize that if you're listening to this right now, then chances are you are better off than most people on the earth. Did you know if you have food in your fridge, clothes to wear, and a place to live, you're better off than 75% of the whole world? Did you know that if you have any kind of savings in the bank, then you're among the top 8% of the world's wealthiest? 40% of the world's wealth is owned by 1% of the population. 50% of the world's population lives on less than $2 a day. Half the world, 3,500,000,000 people, live on less than $2 a day. And in contrast, a mere 70 million live the absolute finest. Here in America, the average worker is said to get paid about $35,000 a year, which is real funny to me because even at my best, I still made $10,000 less than that. But anyway, $35,000 average worker's salary. Did you know that that's equal to less than 1 day of work for the average CEO? Now, I can hear the grumbling now. I can hear it's not that simple. Some people deserve more. People will say the poor could have more if they worked harder. And some will debate if the rich are evil. And personally, I don't care. Look at the numbers. Something is wrong. Something has to change. We can do better. The Zeitgeist movement is about bringing an end to poverty. It's about bringing an end to the class system. We believe that all people are truly equal and that every man, woman, and child on earth has the right to the best life that they can possibly live. We've been forced in the current world to circumvent our morals. It happens every day. We're practically taught to ignore the homeless, aren't we? We tell ourselves they don't have to be homeless if they don't want to, or they'll just go buy booze. But in the end, helping is the moral thing to do. If someone asks for help, you help them regardless of what their situation is. And so what if he buys booze? I never remember hearing, help your neighbor only if you find them worthy of your help and if he has no plans of getting drunk. Helping our neighbor is moral. Good deeds never get us anywhere, we're told. So we ignore our morality and we don't want to help. We know that greed is wrong. Yet, the more we have, the more we want, don't we? Everyone's shown greed at some point or another. We know coveting our neighbor's stuff is bad. My favorite comedian, George Carlin, whom I also consider a modern-day philosopher, once said that coveting can't be bad because it's what keeps the economy going. And he's right. Why do we buy most of what we buy? Well, because it's the thing to have. You saw someone else with it, now you want it. Well, then you want more and more, and then what are we back to? Greed. Our way of life is often in direct violation with what we know to be morally right. The Zeitgeist movement advocates a world that will no longer pit you against your own morals. It will give you, from birth, the ability to stand close to your morals. You would never have to choose the worst of two evils. A child will never have to ask you, as I asked my mother, well, if there's starving kids in Africa, can't we just share with them? And you'll never have to answer, that's just not the way the world works. We will do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. No longer would any special interests be able to buy its way out of doing the right thing. Have you ever heard of carbon credits? Because they're a perfect example. In order to cut down on carbon emissions, the government issues these carbon credits to industrial companies. They can only produce the amount of carbon that they are given credit for. And this is supposed to cut down on oil use and pollution. Well, some companies have more credits than they have need for, and others go over those credits. So the companies with leftover credits sell off their remaining credits to the companies who don't have enough. So we're back to where we started. No reduction in greenhouse gases. While Company A gets to continue over polluting, Company B makes money off of it. So we took something with a good moral idea, being kind to the earth, we twisted it, made money off of it, and it became completely immoral. My last point on morals, us as Americans, we're really the worst. We have a motto, because we can. Well, just because you can doesn't mean you should. This issue is used the most in gun control discussions. Why do you want to own a gun in the first place? They're nothing but bad news. Because the Constitution says I can. That doesn't make owning a gun right. I agree, in this world, having a gun can give a certain level of security. However, we shouldn't need to live in a world where security is achieved by more violence. We believe in a world where gun control is no longer relevant because weapons would no longer be used. They'll be looked at as relics of a barbarian world and nothing more. No one would ever have a reason to need or want one ever again. So often the movement is dismissed by people right from the start. And that's because as we grow up, our minds take in a set of instructions and rules as to how the world works. And anything that doesn't follow those rules are simply disregarded as make-believe and imagination. You have to realize that our imagination is our greatest gift. It's what makes us human. We live now in a world that was only in the imagination of someone 100 years ago. We will our imagination into reality. That's what we do. I mean, look at the telephone. In modern days, this is a piece of technology still growing, changing, and evolving. But we have to remember that at one time, people could only imagine what it would be like to talk to somebody 100 miles away. The only way something isn't possible is if we give up on it. A childhood hero of mine once said, "The secret is to believe that nothing is impossible. Then start taking possibilities and make them probabilities." Another thing to realize in regards to why we are always so fast to say no to new ideas is that we really think the world will stay the same throughout our life. We take our world for granted so badly. But there's proof all over the world that it does change. I mean, if there weren't changes, then we'd all still be wearing togas or writing on cave walls or building pyramids. We just have a tendency to think the world will stay basically the same for all time. Sure, we know some technologies will evolve, but have you ever thought that nations would change, geography would change, ideas would evolve, and that at some point in the future, someone from this time wouldn't even recognize human civilization because it's so different? Will we always live in structures, or will we find something new? Remember that all things are possible. Change is the only constant. The Zeitgeist movement embraces and celebrates change. There's nothing better than to bring about change that positively affects the greater good. We believe that being wrong shouldn't bring with it shame. When you're wrong, someone else is right, and out of that exchange comes something positive. It's okay to be wrong. We believe in never giving up on anything, especially people. What we talk about and promote is radical. We've been called everything from daydreamers to communists. However, I assure you that we're nothing like what people try to classify us as. We are far more than daydreamers, and we are not some spooky red shadow looking to destroy American life. We are like many people. We see mankind headed toward a very bad place. Just about everyone sees it, and you hear the jargon everywhere. Education's in the shitter, the rich get richer, and the poor get poorer. The new generation has no respect. You can't trust anyone anymore. What happened to the good old days? We're living in our last days. Violence is at an all-time high. The laughable weapons of mass destruction. And my favorite, life isn't fair, kid. See, we just don't believe that death and destruction and total failure is the only thing that's going to happen. We believe we can pull ourselves out of it. A lot of people think that because of how bad the world is getting, that we need a return to old traditions, the old way, old values. But I promise you, backwards is never a good direction. We are presenting the world with a bold new direction for mankind. We believe that now, today, we have the ability to lay the foundation for a world 100% free from poverty, a world 90% or higher free from crime. A world where every person has the guarantee to the healthiest and fullest life they wish to have. A world where we trust each other, possibly for the first time. Now, I know every fiber of your being is probably telling you right now that I'm totally nuts, this is totally nuts, it's just a child's dream, but I promise you it's possible. And in fact, it's highly probable. So, if you can open your mind and put aside labels such as anarchist, communist, Marxist, and utopianist, then just keep listening, check back with me, and we'll continue our journey.